Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast. My name is Stuart Hardy, and I'm joined, as always, by Derek Brissett. And Derek, it is going to be quite a deep and impactful show this week, I believe. We've got so much to talk about. We have to talk about the Canada versus Chile match, also like the USA versus Uruguay, just because that was on at the same time. It was announced today, on the night that we're recording, on Tuesday, the 5th of October, that Canada's European tour, their second European tour this year, has been announced. We've also got other things more closer to home, the Coastal Cup, Premier Rugby Sevens, and so much to talk about. But let's start off more focused. How you been, man?
Oh, not too bad, man. Like you said, there's plenty of rugby to be watched this weekend, which, is basically a theme of every single weekend now. Did slightly change it up a little bit. Went up to a cottage to watch the game. And I mean, people definitely have their thoughts on that Canada-Chile game. I probably enjoyed it a little bit more because I was sitting next to like a fire outside by a lake near Bob Cajun. So, I mean, nice. It was a nice way to watch the game. I mean, it's, if you can't actually be in the stadium next to a campfire, it's probably right up there on the ways to go with, rugby viewing experiences.
Well, I can tell that Bob Cajun is a very lovely part of Ontario. It can be a little bit chilly. And speaking of Chile receptions,
oh my God,
we have to talk about.
No, oh man, no. Can we?
No,
we're redoing.
We're cracking down. We're going
the intro. We can't. Come on, man. That was. What did you just say? I just need to hear the terrible pun one more time.
Speaking of a Chile reception, Canada certainly got a little bit cold feet when it came to them.
Oh my God, cold feet now. God damn. All right. You're like, this is the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze hosting our podcast here, guys. It's going to be every chilly and cold pun imaginable coming out of Stu's mouth now.
Okay. Right. Let's get on with it, because I think we spent more time complaining about the intro than the actual intro itself. So we need to talk about what happened in BC on the weekend. It was Canada versus Chile. And the final score was Canada 22, Chile 21. So it is a victory for Canada. But we'll get onto that in a minute. Canada scored 3 tries, 2 of which were converted, and also got a very important penalty. Chile scored 2 tries, only 1 of which was converted, but also scored 3 penalties as well. Now, as we said last week, this is part of a 2-match series. The second match will take place in Valparaiso in Chile. It was also announced that there is a roster change as a result of the match. Both Matt Heaton and Cooper Coates will be unavailable for the second leg of the fixture. But there is someone else who is coming in to replace them, only in one position, obviously. But this is a guy who's been playing in Europe. And if you have any knowledge of Canadian rugby, you know what a big scoop this is. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyler Ardron will be joining the squad out in Chile. So Derek, I think obviously having Tyler Ardron is a huge scoop for Canada, but I want to go back to what I said before, 22-21.
Yeah.
This was a victory, but it didn't feel like Canada was the winner.
No, yeah, that's exactly actually what I wanted to ask you right at the start. So yeah, the scores 22-21. Canada wins, but as you said, why does it feel like they lost? Like, it's exactly, the weirdest.
Exactly.
Like, I was trying to figure out like another like analogy like in sports that I could even come up with. Like I've never seen a team win, yet the fan base is so like dejected by it, which is kind of, I don't know. It's a bizarre, I guess it's just like a bizarre vibe that's definitely coming through. At the end of the day, I mean, you look at the overall performance. Was it pretty? No. Was it like, did Canada play that well? No. Did they, at the end of the day, find a way to gut out a kind of greasy and nasty win? Yes. So, I mean, if you're looking for like positives in this game, I was gonna like it's so bizarre to be like, yeah, they did win, but it's like there's there's this weirdly like it doesn't feel like it, and I don't really know how to explain this at all. It's just like but it's the biggest positive out of this game, in all honesty, is, like I said, it was greasy. They didn't necessarily play that well, but hey, they found a way to win at the end of the day, right? And I mean, the tough thing is when you kind of like look at this game, and I think we kind of talked about, or like last week, Stu, especially you, man, you've been like hyping up Chile for a while. And it's like the last time the broadcast even started with Gareth Reese reminding everybody that, hey, the last time these two played, right, it was 56-0. It was in the same stadium too. And it was like so much, Chile has gotten so much better. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think Chile did anything in this game that really like scared me or anything that showed me that it's like, oh man, like to make me, even as weird as it is, to make me worried about next week. Right. But it's like, I think you watch the game, and there's a couple things to me that stand out in this game. I think Brian Ray had a tweet where he said at times the game looked like a third division club game or something, which was probably true. It was, if you're trying to introduce people to rugby, this is not the game to show. Pick the I don't know, Springboks All Blacks from the past weekend. That was fun.
Absolutely.
Don't show, like, I wouldn't, this is not the game to show. But it's like, I think there's a couple things that stood out. So I'll get the first one out of the way, because I don't really like doing it, but I feel like it has to be addressed because it's a thing that happened in this. The officiating was trash. Like, it's
that seems to be the general consensus.
It's trash, but like the I guess if it's going to be trash, it's the good type of trash officiating where both teams think it's trash officiating. It was like there was times throughout the match where it was just like you could see like the interactions that that Rumball and Sigrin were having with the official, and both of them just looked perplexed at times. Didn't like, just like, what are you calling? Like, what's going on? Like, it was just bizarre. There's bizarre scrum penalties. There was bizarre. Tyler Rowland got the yellow card, which, I mean, it's maybe a soft-ish yellow card, but at the end of the day, he hit the guy in the air, whether it's intentional or not. So it's like, I kind of get the yellow, but then like, I believe it was like Velardre hits Nelson like a tackle in the air, and nothing at all. Like, I don't even think it was penalized. There wasn't even a penalty. I think they got Chile got a penalty for in like an infringement in the ruck, just coincidentally or something. It was just bizarre. I don't really like ripping on refs though, so I think that's kind of where I'm gonna like end that one. But like, it was just. But do you have any additional officiating thoughts here? Because I'm just kind of like, I just feel like it needs to be addressed, but I don't really want to spend too much time on it.
Well, it's interesting that there's a thread on Twitter which was shared by Rouge Rugby, talking about like how this guy who supported his rugby team from ages 8 till 18 would blame the referee and go into the thread went into detail of how a lot of calls were actually like 50-50, and it's just because the ref is in there and they have to make a quick decision.
In this game particularly?
No, just in general.
In general. Okay.
I'm going to say that this game was like the antithesis of this, because you could clearly see some things just didn't make sense. Now, at the same time, rugby has a tradition of changing the rules every time the wind changes direction. So you can maybe argue that, okay, if you have to focus on like this new 50-22 rule, maybe you'll like
that didn't even come up though.
I know, but if you're looking for that and something else happens, then
but like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, like, I don't like doing it. Like, refs are human. Listen, like any player, they have bad games. This guy, he had a bad game. But
it was a bad game, but it was a bad game for both teams. It wasn't.
No, it was a terrible game. It was just terrible. But it's like, the thing is though, right? It's like better officiating, and it's like, the outcome of the game could be different, right? But it's like, I don't think you can point to just like calls that grossly favored Canada versus grossly favored Chile. It was just bad all around. But either way, on to the next thing. I put out a tweet that kind of said I kind of liked the idea behind Canada's attack, despite the just, oh my God, catch the ball. Or if you're Peter Nelson, throw the ball through the hands of the guy, not his knee, not his number on the back of his jersey. There was just so many like handling errors, bad passes, dropped balls. Like it was handling errors, dropped balls, whatever. There's so many. I'm saying it more than once. Right. And it's like the attack was just getting absolutely stifled. And part of it was like their own wrongdoing. But when I said that despite all the execution errors, and there was a lot, that I was like, I kind of think I liked the idea behind the attack. But then when I said that, I just got bombarded by comments about how predictable it was. And
how predictable it was that
how predictable the attack was, how predictable the attack was, and everybody that said that to me, I'll just want you to know that you were 100% correct. It's like watching the game. Sometimes it became like, I like the idea of the attack, because the game against the United States, that they lost, the second leg, was just box kick, box kick, box kick, box kick. No matter what the situation was, as soon as Canada touched the ball, they box kicked it away. I liked that Canada decided that we can play with the ball in our hands a little bit. They still used the box kick, and probably a couple times I actually kind of effectively used it. And then it sort of, as the game kind of went on, Brody's box kick started going a little bit too long for the kick chase, and they couldn't really do a whole lot with it. But there's definitely moments where they were gaining territory, and it was helping them set up plays and stuff like that too. But again, it kind of just comes down to when we're talking about like Brody's kicks a little too long, right? Execution errors again. But I agree. I agree with the people that were just started sending all the tweets being like, yeah, it was kind of predictable. And if you kind of like go back and watch the game too, the line out, which like the first line out wasn't that great. A whole bunch of lineouts in the middle of the game, like between the first lineout and then towards the end of the game, were actually really good. Like they were connecting on them. They were contesting. Kyle Bailey on the defensive side of the ball, I thought did very well to he was stealing lineouts from Chile, and Chile's got some big dudes in the lineout too, right? So like Eisman is a freaking monster. That guy is huge, and Bailey's getting up and beating them in the lineout, right? So that's a positive thing. I think though, but there's a part in the game where even though the lineup was connecting, very oftentimes though it was the same play, right? It would go to it would be Bailey or Thomas in the lineout, right? They kind of alternated who they were throwing to, right? But it would be they would take it over at the top, immediately pass, toss it down to Brody. Brody would pass to Nelson. Nelson would pass it to Lesage. Lesage would get hit instantly because Chile's reading this play because they've already run it 4 times. And then the next phase would go to Vicolani, who would also run into a wall of defenders. And I don't know if it's just like I rewatching the game. I don't know if it's just my mind being like, I'm looking for this now and I want to specifically see it. But it literally looks like each time they run the play, more Chilean guys hit the ball carrier because they can kind of read it, right? There's a play too in the second half where it's just like Canada's trying to work the ball to the wing, and you can see like just the Chilean defense is just sliding over. And by the time the ball gets to Brock Webster, who played very well in this game. Brock Webster is one of the few Canadian guys I was actually kind of impressed with in this game. But it gets to him on the outside and he gets hit by 4 guys. Right. Because it's like there's nowhere for him to go. And and Chile. And I think like part of that, too, it's like, the attacks. Yeah, there was certainly an element of predictability to their attack. And Chile, to Chile's credit, though, like they figured it out early. They came in with a good game plan to shut that attack down. But like the other thing, though, too, I think, especially with the attack, man, and it's we mentioned the officiating, not the best, but it was also like the execution errors and stuff that led to it. Like the end of the game, right, with Canada down a couple points, 21-19 toward the end of the game. And Canada is just like, they get the ball in deep in Chilean territory. Like they're inside the 22 for like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, something like that. And it's just, we can talk again, like I guess the officiating does kind of come into play here a little bit because Chile is just taking penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. And, you're kind of like looking at it, be like, how many penalties you got to take before, the ref, decides to, to pull out that yellow card.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, there's a case to be made for that. But at the same time, it's like, how many set pieces do you need from 10 meters out to score?
Yeah.
Right. Like at some point, like how many, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I agree. Maybe with the constant penalties, maybe at some point, that yellow card should have came out. But how many set pieces do you need? Right. It's like, line out after line out getting stopped. When it gets into the face play, it's getting stopped. Chile might be offside or getting a penalty in the ruck, but like, it's like there was offsides, there was there was not offsides, there was lineouts, there was scrums. They couldn't score. They couldn't punch it in at the end. And even like, man, this game was just so weird. It was like even at the end, I don't know, man. It's just such a weird, like, I don't even know how to like comprehend the thoughts on it. It was just such a weird game. Even like we're talking about like some execution errors and stuff in the game. Like there's the moment toward the end of the game, right? So like Canada gives up a penalty. Chile kind of like, right. So Chile gives up a penalty. Canada's kind of back around, like, just inside their own half. And it's like, Povey goes to, kick to try to get to the corner. Povey's got a massive boot. So the guy tries for the corner no matter where he is on the field, he tries. And it's like the ball stays in and, the ball stays in. He doesn't get it to the touchline. And Fernandez just drops it. Like he doesn't even, it's not like he's like trying to like, has to do some acrobatic thing to keep it in. Like it's clearly in, and Fernandez just drops the ball and they get the scrum at the 5, at 5 meter line. Right. And then, right. And it's like, and then at the end, it's like Canada gives up a penalty and, Canada gives up. So Chile gets to like, they do the tap. Right. And it's like, man, and it's like Chile. And then at the end of the game too. And it was just like, Chile is giving you like all these penalties, all these set pieces, dropping a ball that's not even going to get into touch. Right. Chile gets a turnover at the end of the game, does a quick tap, takes a penalty immediately. Carrasco just flies over the ruck like Superman had too many, beverages one night and just can't stay straight when he goes over. And it's, right. And it's just immediately, and he hands it back, and it's like Povey, right? Povey slots that penalty to end the game. Yeah. And it's just this like, I don't know. It's one of those things like, I guess watching, it's like, how many chances do you need at this? Right. And it's like, and then, but it's the thing. It's like, I think Chile, did well of, obviously early in the game, they took advantage of some penalties, right, to get the early lead. Right. Canada did have possession more. Canada did have a little bit more territory. They didn't do anything with that possession or the territory. They ran into Chilean defense the entire time. Chile's defense, like, I think you got to give, like, I know it was predictable, but like they were making, like, I mean, it's not like they were laying guys out, but they were making tackles, right? They were making the tackles that they needed to make. And then, as the game kind of went on, it was just like Chile was kind of, to me, this is the one thing, and this is ultimately why I think this game is a win for Canada, but it feels like a loss, right? Because we kind of know the situation. Canada's obviously the higher ranked team. Canada's never missed a World Cup. Chile has never played in a World Cup, right? Chile has been, as we've all talked about, the mass improvement that this organization made. And I mean, you can see it in the post-game interviews, right? When they interviewed Ross Brody, he had 2 tries in the game. 2 like really nice tries. Like he kind of, they were good tries when
they were good to watch.
Yeah. And so Brody gets the man of the match for his 2 tries. And I mean, when you win a game by 1 point, the guy that scores 2 tries, definitely going to get the man of the match. Even though, I mean, him and Nelson at the end of the day, like they're the 2 guys that are at the front of the as everyone keeps calling it, the predictable attack and stuff, right? So it's
Mm.
but like Brody scores 2 tries and he's the man of the match. And his post-game interview, he's talking about going back to the drawing board, right?
Yeah.
Like they have to figuring out like what they got to do next week against Chile, in the second leg here, because it's like, yeah, they squeaked out a win, but what they were doing wasn't like, it's a greasy win. It's not necessarily working. It's not, you don't necessarily want to do it again, that same style, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you hear Martin Segrin right after, and he's like, he sounds ecstatic, right?
Yeah.
Like, talking about like the pride that he has in his team and stuff. And it's like, and I think that's ultimately where I kind of feel. I think that's why it feels like Canada lost, despite the fact that they won.
Yeah.
Right. Is this like Canada didn't play well. Chile kind of gave them some opportunities to win the game. And they still couldn't quite take advantage of it until the very last one, where it was finally just, like I said, it's like, the amount of set pieces that they had at the end of the game, yellow card given to them or not, like they should have scored a try at the end of the game with that many opportunities. But, at the end of the day, they found a way to win the game. I mean, they got the ball back when it mattered, right? And but like Siger, I think that's the thing though with Chile though, right? It's like you come in, you play defense, right? When Canada gives up penalties in Videla's range, he stepped up and he stepped up. He went 3 for 4, right? So he's got his points on the board. He kept the scoreboard ticking over for Chile. He kept the game close. I tweeted about 10 minutes into the game, I think, that it's like the longer that this game stays close, the better it is for Chile. And I think that kind of like stayed true. They showed up. They played defense when they had some opportunities, a little bit of, with the maul. Savredra, the big lock, he, just, used the line out in the maul, and they were able to crash over a couple tries, right? One of those was when Tyler Rowland was in the bin, right? So it's like they took advantage of that penalty there real quick. And it's just kind of, I think for Chile, you showed up, you played some defense. Sure, you lost, but you lost by 1, right? So it's like you played well enough. Like I said, they didn't do anything that scares me, to be honest. Like there was nothing about Chile's game that scares me. I think Canada played bad more than anything. There's nothing in Chile's game that like scared me about it, but it's like they played defense. They played defense effectively. Right. Maybe took advantage of the fact that the ref was not handing out anything. You take that and now you set up. You're going back home, right? You're going back home. So you completely flipped home field advantage, right? You're going back home and you're down by 1, which is, I mean, realistically, this is all you've done because of the rules, right? Is if it's tied on aggregate, right? You're playing extra time.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's tied on, so you're down by 1. So, I mean, you're like, it's like, even if Chile wins by 1, they just go into extra time.
Yeah.
Like you've
basically like they only have to play 1 game at this point.
Exactly. If you're Chile right now, like you're looking at this, yeah, sure, you lost. Sure, I'm sure Chile would have loved to not given up that penalty at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Right. And then, walk out of their 21-19 winners +2 advantage. I'm sure they would have loved that. But like you got essentially what amounts to, we'll borrow the hockey analogy, like a game 7, right? Winner take all game on your own turf.
Yeah.
Right. Like you did. And I think that's ultimately why I think it weirdly feels like a loss for Canada in a weird way, despite the fact that they won. Because I think even in like the post-match interviews that you can see, like that were on the Premier Sports broadcast, right? It's like Chile looked happier about that outcome. I think Chile deserved to be happier about that outcome.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't necessarily think Canada would be super thrilled with the way that they played in that game. If you got to go with a positive and stuff, it's like, I think the one thing, it sounded like, on some people were concerned that the size of the Chilean pack, right? And what we saw with, the USA was dominant against Canada in the set piece. And then with the size of the Chilean pack, and that's kind of the way Chile likes to play too, right? That, that could be the set piece could be a problem. And I think over the course of the game, if Canada had the better set piece, both in the scrum and in the lineout, Bailey to me, I think Bailey was the best player. I know Brody got the man of the match award. I thought Bailey was the best player in the game. All over the pitch, great work rate. And most important, like he was dominating the line out, right? On both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Like it was the line out, Jeb Sinclair, I think, alluded to it during it. It's like the line out looks so much, Canada's line out looks so much better with Kyle Bailey in the game.
Yeah.
Right. And it showed. So I mean, yeah, it's like I don't even know. Like, I guess going into next week, like what do you got to do, Stu? Like what do you think here? Because it's
Well,
like,
speaking of this coming weekend, that game will be kicking off at 2 p.m. on Eastern Time this Saturday, and it'll be on Premier Sports or premiersports.tv, and not, as I incorrectly tweeted out, premierspirits.tv. Totally different channel. But this is the thing.
Sounds like an excellent, like, Adam Gilchrist rugby co-branded drink.
Yeah, well, depending on how the game goes, maybe taking a visit to Premier Spirits, depending. To celebrate, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I wonder if Corey Thomas is bringing down some Giltinis. If he can get that shipped out to Chile, I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, yeah, I think it'd be something nice to have. So I've been looking at the weather in Valparaiso on Saturday, and obviously it being the Southern Hemisphere, it's their spring going into summer. It's going to be quite warm, about 14, 15 degrees, 73% humidity, but only 10% chance of precipitation with 18-kilometer-an-hour winds. So I'm really on the fence. Like I said last week, I said that Canada would win their home game, but I also think Chile can win their game as well. I also think the issue of flying out and then having to wait 24 hours to get negative COVID tests means limited time to prepare. Obviously, with only a week's turnaround, you can only do so much anyway. So I think what Canada needs to do...
Chile's got to do that COVID test too, though, right?
Yes, but they also flew out on Sunday as opposed to Tuesday. So they have an extra 48 hours to readjust. What I think Canada needs to do is, and this is going to be obvious, is not make so many handling errors and, learn to pass. Always good. But this is the thing. It's like people can say, oh, yes.
I appreciate the analysis.
Yeah, the attacking is predictable. It's easy to come from. Well, it would be predictable if it actually pieced together and didn't end up with a knock-on scrum to Chile. I also think that anyone who does any type of kicking, whether it be box kicking from Brody or Peter Nelson or even Will Kelly, or anyone that, or Povey, thank you, they need to prepare to do a drop goal, I think, because if you're getting into within 10 meters and you're not getting through that line, you need to have a kicker back there.
Did you think at the end of the game, this past game, do you think like a drop goal would have been like maybe could have been the play earlier in the instead of...
Well, we both know how great a last-minute drop goal is to teams' morale and the fans' morale, having seen it happen in Toronto. But I think it is. But then again, you also look at like Wales during the last Rugby World Cup. Within the first 35 seconds, you think, they're gonna they're gonna aim to try and get a try within the first 5 minutes. Nope, passes it back to Dan Biggar, slots the fastest drop goal in World Cup history. You need to have that kind of unpredictability, and you need to be able to lay down that marker of, if we can't get the try or we can't get a penalty within your 22, ball's coming back, and one of our kickers is getting us 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, I think drop goals are super entertaining. I wish there was more of them. But yeah, I think that you do need to do something, because I think the one thing I think is clear, and it's I don't really know what you do. Because you got to do, but like Chile clearly figured out your attacking strategy. So you got to come up with something that they didn't see last week. Right. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if you're going to I think that's the one thing, right? Is that, you could kind of tell like Vikilani got met at the game line constantly throughout this game. And so did Lesage, so did Jones. And it's like the one thing, so Tyler Ardron's coming back, which like thank God. Thank God he's back. Which is great. Instantly, he's the best player on the pitch between either of the two sides. Instantly. The only thing though is it's like, and he might be good enough to avoid it, but it's like I wonder if Chile is looking at that being like, oh, the ball's going to 8.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like it's like, oh, he goes up in a line out, the ball's going to 8.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like you know what I mean? Like I hope that's not like a side effect. Like, I mean, use Ardron because you have to.
Yeah.
But the other thing it might be like
at the same time, like use him as a distraction. Everyone thinks, oh, it's going to Ardron.
Yeah. Or
and
just
then they
use
don't.
them if it's or like, I mean, the other side of it. I was talking to some friends about hockey the other day, and it was just like, it's funny, like looking at like Alex Ovechkin as he's kind of like people are starting to talk about if he can like break Gretzky's goal record and stuff. Yeah. And it's like half of his goals, so many of his goals coming on the Washington power play, and they haven't changed their power play in like 10 years. Right. It's just like he just goes to the one spot and it's a one timer. Yeah. And it's like he scored like 400 goals, he scored like 300 goals doing that. And it doesn't matter. Right. It doesn't matter. Right. So it's like if Ardron's good enough that even if they know the ball's going to him, it doesn't matter, then so be it and use Ardron. But it's like, I hope it doesn't put Canada in that trap of like, because they figured out the attack. So it's like, if you're Rob Howley, you're Kingsley Jones right now, like you need to be coming up with something, because it's like they clearly showed that they know what's coming at them defensively, right? So you need to I don't know, maybe try to get the ball out wide, but it's like it's also like I think there was a lot of just, you remember that Squidge rugby video for a couple of years back where he was talking about the Canada attack? Yeah. And it was just like there was a lot of that. The like it's going 10, 12, 13, 14. Yeah. Right. And it's like, maybe you got to mix in a couple different patterns and stuff. Maybe go out wide a little bit faster. Don't necessarily rely on the forwards all the time. Yeah. Change it up. Maybe try a little bit more of like some attacking mindset kicks. Right. Let's do the box kicks. I kind of like, I think you use those again a little bit, maybe bring that not to the level that you use them in the second leg against the United States. No, that was insanity. But like, you know what I mean? Like bring that back a little bit. Because I think you got like Brock Webster in this game, dude, let's let him go get the ball. Yeah. Like just put the ball up, let him go get it. Cooper Coates kind of doing well. Unfortunately, he's not back though. So, I mean, we could talk about that too. So, but like, maybe let them go get it or something. But like, I think the big thing is too, man, is like you are leading this series right now going in. Yeah. So it is like Canada's winning this series right now. And, it's this is a massive game. I think this is going to be probably the biggest game that maybe most of the majority of this roster has ever played in. Obviously, as we mentioned, this is a do or die game, right? The loser with a 1 point aggregate, fairly safe to say that I think it's mathematically the only way it happens anyways, right? But it's like the loser of this game is out of the World Cup. Yeah. Right. So that like, and I mean, like it's tough. Like you don't want to think about it, but it's like this is the outcome of this game could drastically impact Rugby Canada as a whole. Like the entire organization. Like there's a lot riding on this game. It's a massive game. They have to win. Yeah, as we said, it's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific this Saturday on premiersport.tv.
But that won't be the only international happening on Saturday. We have to talk about the one that happened at the same time at Infinity Park. This was USA versus Uruguay in their two-match series. First match, USA won 1916. So they have a 3-point lead going into the second leg in Montevideo. And you could look at it the same way, I think, as you can look at the Canada games in. I think as well is that because of the way that the South American teams qualified for this round, there isn't really anything to gate because that was part of like a round robin series between Uruguay, Chile, and Brazil. But I think after seeing the USA Canada games, like obviously the first game ends with a 13-point advantage to Canada. And now we're seeing just how close these teams are in the fact that USA only won by 3 points. Like that's the thing. Uruguay just needs to lead by a penalty, and they're the team that's going into extra time as well. Something to point out is that at halftime, the score was 14-3 to the USA. They score a penalty in the second half. Sorry, they score a try without a conversion in the second half to take it to 19-3. And then in the final quarter, they concede 13 points. And, we're talking about, Chile are chuffed a bit going into their home fixture. I'm sure Uruguay are like in the exact same situation. Yeah. Now, obviously, the circumstances are a bit more favorable because whoever loses that series will then play the winner of Canada and Chile. But this is the thing is that we've said that, we consider like USA to be like the best team in the Americas. Uruguay, well, after Argentina, the best tier two. Forgot about the team that had already qualified.
So of the team that beat the All Blacks.
So of USA and Uruguay, we said that USA are the better team, but they've only been able to win by 3 points. However, we've also seen what happens when USA play in the second leg of a series. So, but this is the question. I'm just going to keep this really brief and stuff. Do you think, Derek, that the USA can hold on to their lead, or will it be Uruguay that will supplant them and take the Americas' one position?
Honestly, I think the USA is going to win this. I think the USA defense played very well. They, up until the 62nd minute, they only allowed 3 points, right? Yeah. Uruguay, sure, they mounted a big comeback attempt, but the lead that the USA built up was big enough to hold them off, and I think it is a game that I think it can go either way. But I don't think there's any reason if I'm an American fan, I'm not super nervous. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a tight match. We knew this going into it. USA and Uruguay, man, is exciting rugby. They're two very good teams. I think the one thing that has become abundantly clear, though, I think the winner of Chile Canada is going to the repechage tournament.
Yep.
And you never know, right? Anything can happen, right? But it's there looked like a little bit of a difference in the quality of game.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I hope the United States, as a fan, I want the United States to win, because I think to grow rugby in North America, the best outcome is Canada and the United States in the World Cup. And I don't think I want to watch a scenario where it's obviously the loser of the next series would go to the repechage tournament, so I wouldn't really be eliminating them. But it's I don't think at this stage in the qualification, I get that it has to happen in the first round all the time. But at this stage in the qualification where it's you can start eliminating teams and stuff, it's I don't want to necessarily see Canada and the United States being, in all honesty, as weird as it sounds, being forced to be we're going to knock each other out. It's almost... It might not be I don't know. So I'm hopeful that USA wins and then Canada gets to play Uruguay.
Well, again, those matches will be happening on Saturday. Now we're going to take a look to the future, because it was announced today that World Rugby have given the dates for the international games that will be happening in this autumn in the Northern Hemisphere. So the end of year test series. And you know what? Canada went to Europe for the summer. They liked it so much, they're going to go back again in the fall. So we have not only Canada men, but Canada women will be doing the tour as well. So on the 6th of November, the men's team will be facing Portugal. And on the 13th of November, they'll be facing Belgium. Now, kickoff locations and times are still to be announced. However, for the women's team, that's very interesting is that they'll be playing a 2-match series against the USA. Both games will be at Infinity Park, and this will be part of the new Pacific 4 series in preparation for the WXV, which will kick off in 2023. As well as that, they will be playing England women at the Twickenham Stoop, and they'll be playing the Wales women at the Cardiff Arms Park. So, very historic grounds, very popular with the women's game in Europe. So, and I think this is fantastic. It's really interesting against the USA because they're playing the first game on the 1st of November and the second game on the 5th of November. So 4 days later. So
it's a tough turnaround.
Needs must and all that.
That's a tough turnaround. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing the women's team back in action though. Right. Like it's unfortunate that the Women's World Cup got canceled this year.
Postponed till next year. So.
Yeah, postponed or whatever. So it's, obviously prep for that goes on, right? So it's like it'll be nice it'll be great to see them get some test matches in the fall here. And obviously, the United States, England, Wales, great competition, great way to test yourself. So I'm looking forward to that. I feel like my excitement for a game against Portugal and Belgium weighs very heavily on the result of Saturday.
Well, the interesting thing is that it's been heavily rumored that the team that will be going to Europe for the men's side will be a young team. Now, I know there are a lot of young players already in this squad, but I think it may be the opportunity to give those those in the late 20s and around the 30 mark will be given the autumn to recover and recuperate. It's funny that we were talking earlier in the year when they were going to play Wales and England of saying that we want to see Canada maybe play like tier 2 nations. Well, now we're getting it. And we have we don't have, there's no info. Like I said, they haven't even announced where they're going to be playing these games in Portugal or Belgium or what time. If it's on Premier Sports, maybe a discounted price. But we will see. And, as you said, it's going to be dependent on how the result happens this weekend. All right, now let's go back to BC because we have had the second round of the Coastal Cup. And so these are the results from the weekend. The Crimson Tide were the team that took a bye week. Van East got their first victory with 45-11 over Trinity Western. The Pacific Pride won their match 33-22 against UVic. And the Vancouver Wave got their first game with a victory, 34-22 over UBC. These games are now on the Coastal Cup YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen them already, that is a good place to watch it. There's only going to be one match this coming week, as Derek informed me, because I'm not Canadian. It's Thanksgiving weekend coming up. So
you should know this though, man. It means you get a day off work.
I should know this, and yet time is an illusion as this pandemic.
I saw on Twitter earlier this week you had a nice public transit rant, and I'm like, Stu is slowly becoming Canadian. Like, it's I don't think you're not Canadian until you have the complaints about the GO train and the TTC out here, right? It's like,
oh no,
you're slowly becoming an actual Torontonian. It's
oh no, I'm old school European. I miss going on the train and not having to look at the timetable of when it's going to be here. That's how much I love public transport. Anyway, so as I said, because it's the Thanksgiving weekend, there will only be one fixture, which will be the Pride versus the Tide, and that will be 3:30 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday.
Coastal Cup too. I mean, the matches themselves were entertaining. I mean, Van East kind of put TWU to the sword a little bit. Right. So that that game, it's a blowout. It is what it is. They
Yeah.
happen in rugby sometimes. But the Vancouver Wave, UBC. I mean, we talked about UBC kind of being a potential favorite to win the whole thing here, and Vancouver Wave in their first game, kind of lay down a marker. Great win for them. They rushed out to a 21 nothing halftime lead. 20 that soon became 24 nothing. UBC had mounted a bit of a comeback, but they were able to stave off. Kind of just stave it off at the end and win 34-22. A couple things I think kind of noteworthy from this game that I did want to touch on. So one, Dakota McMullen, try of the year candidate. Stu, did you see this try? Dude,
Not yet, but I will be watching it when I
dude,
go through the entire Coastal Cup.
It's nasty, man. You know what? I'm screen sharing this. You're gonna watch this damn try. Here it is. McMullen's the fly half. He's wearing 10 on the white team, UBC, obviously.
Oh wow!
So Stu, now that
magic feet, magic hands.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's your favorite part about that? The kick through the cheeky little grubber to get it over the top of the defender that comes sliding across, the regather, or the Superman dive with the somersault grounding combination?
Well, I think each of those individual efforts for any other player would definitely put as like the try of the match. But to do all of that, that was special to watch.
Yeah, that was crazy. If you haven't seen the try, UBC Thunderbirds Vancouver Wave, the full game is on YouTube. It's the try that makes the game 24-19 for UBC. They don't have a clock on the scoreboard on the game, but if you go to about 1:29, an hour 29 minutes in your video, that's when the try will happen. It's just a unreal try. Great play. The other thing I wanted to mention that I thought was really cool from this game, obviously the Vancouver Wave did not play last week. They had the first bye week. So this was the first time we got a roster announcement from them. And sadly, one of the Wave players, Dan Wigley, has recently passed away in a tragic accident. And the team has decided to honor him by not allowing their players to wear the number 5 in his honor. So when you looked at the team sheet this week, in the second row, there was number 25 Dave Matthews, as opposed to wearing the traditional number 5 jersey. They kept the 5 jersey on the sidelines. And I just thought it's a really cool tribute that the Wave are doing. That's really all I wanted to say about that. It's just, I think it's a great tribute. And if you're wondering why there's a number 25 out on the pitch as you're watching the Vancouver Wave this year, it's because they're honoring their teammate that has tragically passed away recently. What else? Any other news that you want to touch on here?
Well, we've been talking about Saturdays. We've got, international rugby. We've got Coastal Cup. And we're going to have the inaugural tournament of the Premier Rugby Sevens happening as well. They'll be taking place at AutoZone Park in Memphis. And if you're listening in the United States, you can watch it on Fox Sports 2. And as we mentioned last week, if you're in Canada, you can watch it on TSN. There are 6 men's teams and 4 women's teams. The experts, headliners, loggerheads, and loonies will both have men's and women's teams. The locals and the team will have just men's teams. So you can look at their kit online. You can look at the rosters online at Premier Rugby Sevens website. Derek, just for fun, which men's team do you think is going to win the tournament, and which women's team do you think is going to win the tournament? And the only reason why I asked this question is because I know you're going to pick the team, but that's only the men's team. They don't have a women's team. So which women's team are you going to pick?
So first of all, the team has to be the favorite to win this. Like, I'm not this, I made the jokes about the team being the greatest team name of all time. Danny Barrett though explained it. He did an MLR rant episode, or like and he said on that it's like, so the logo's horses, which is a subject that I know nothing about beyond the fact that horses exist and some people like to race them. But apparently a group of horses is called a team. So that's what they're named after. I had no idea that that's what a group of horses is called. I just thought they were called horses. But apparently it's called a team. Stu, are you Googling this? It looks like
I am Googling it just to make
this. What, you don't believe Danny Barrett? What has Danny Barrett ever done to not earn your trust?
I don't know, because the plural of horses is also horse.
Group. Say group of horses, though.
Group of horses.
Group of horses.
Okay, group of horses. The collective noun of horse is you can, well, that's the thing, is that there's a list of things you can have. You can have a team, Harris,
all right, so it's there.
A string.
It's there. Yeah. All right. So the team. So there we go. That's the defense. It's named after horses. It's cool. Yeah. But either way, the team's roster, Barrett, obviously one of the best American Sevens players. So that's already a good start. Isherwood, who had a great Canadian Sevens tournament back in Edmonton. And you got like some MLR presence too. You got John Ryberg on the team. You got Christian Rodriguez is there. Harley Wheeler's on the team. It's a good squad. So I think that it's a good squad, and they're called the team. So they get the full support. The Loonies, I think, close second, man. They're pretty loaded too. Douglas, Matina, Waters, Thomason. And they have Mighty Ducks references in the in their Twitter bio and stuff. So I mean, I feel like these two teams are just the ones battling for my heart right now. So they're they look like they could be a Loonies team final. The women's side, I'll stick with the Loonies for the women's side as well. Lots of Canadian presence on that squad, from the actual players on the team up into the coaching, as well. So I think I'm going team for the men's and then Loonies for the women's side.
All right. Well, I, just to make this fun, will not pick like the same teams, like the men's or women's. And by that I mean I won't pick Loonies for the women's, because I'm going to pick Loonies for the men. So we're going to cover that. And then I haven't had the chance to go through all the teams and check the names and coaches and rosters. I just really like their logo. So I say for the women's team, I'm going to go with the headliners.
The headliners. I think the Loggerheads have the best logo, though. It's like,
I mean, it is a really nice logo.
Yeah, the green, the blue and green, the Pacific Northwest traditional kind of colors. But then it's like a turtle, but like the mouth of the turtle is like a mountain range and stuff. It's clean.
It's very well done.
It's excellent.
All right. Okay, we've got some other rugby news just to wrap up. The big news this week is that the Dallas Jackals have signed Michael Hodge as head coach.
And they have signed Michael Hodge, which leads into the next one, with Nessie Malifa going to Seattle. It's because all the coaches they hired last year now coach the Seattle Seawolves. So
hey,
did a new one.
Hey, we don't need to say that. You're not wrong, but you don't need to say it.
Yeah. Oh, So they needed a new coach because they're all coaching the Seattle Seawolves now.
Okay. Speaking of head coaches, we're now going to go to LA, because Dave Clancy has officially been named as a new head coach at the LA Giltinis Academy. I think it's been like an open secret that he was the head coach, but now it's just been, pen put to paper and the press release has been announced. And we have a few player names to look out for in New England next year. Obviously, a fan favorite, Dougie Fife, is returning to fill out his contract, but they have also signed on a 2-year deal New Zealand back rower Jesse Peretti. He is signed for the Free Jacks, so look forward to him taking to the stands in 2022.
Dallas also announced that they signed Carlo Denison.
That was announced today. So he originally signed for Dallas in 2020, and then obviously was picked up by the Legion in the expansion draft, and now he is back to Dallas.
Yeah, so it's good. I mean, it's nice to see Dallas getting some of their guys back. I think that was was a question last year, be like how many of them would actually go back. It looks like they're doing a somewhat decent job so far. I mean, only a handful of guys announced on the roster, so we'll see how it fully shapes up. But looks like there was at least a handful of players that were interested in coming back, so that's good to see.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to see how Dallas fills out as the year comes to an end, and hopefully they can have a roster ready to go for preseason training. Okay, we are going to end it there. We just want to remind you all that you can watch rugby at the following locations. So Canada versus Chile, that will be on premiersports.tv. The Tide versus Pride, that will be on YouTube as part of the Coastal Cup. Premier Rugby Sevens, as we've mentioned last week, the first part will be on tsn.ca or the TSN app, with the championship finals on TSN4. And if you're looking for European rugby, the Premiership and the URC are both on Sportsnet.
So there's a ton of rugby to watch this weekend.
And unfortunately, it's all on Saturday. So
I know.
Cancel your plans.
It's crazy. So that is actually like the one thing I was kind of like, man, it's crazy how this all kind of worked out. So we got Friday, it kind of starts though. So if you go to Sportsnet on Friday, you can watch Sharks Ospreys, Benetton Ulster, and Harlequins Bristol on Friday afternoon, if you so choose. And then on Saturday from 8 a.m. It starts with Leinster versus Zebra, and that's games at 8 a.m. and then it's just a full slate of all the remaining Premiership and URC games, like into the afternoon. Like I think the last games kicks off at like 2:30 or something. But yeah, like that was the one thing too. Like it is all at the same time, right? So I guess Sunday is I guess Thanksgiving is the watch and replay day.
Yeah, highlights for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to like watch like Premier, like the Sportsnet games, just a warning to everybody: Sportsnet takes them off after 24 hours. Like their on-demand thing, it's like they just take them off after 24 hours. So if you want to watch a replay of like a URC or a Premiership game, you got to do it within the 24-hour window. And that's a hard 24-hour window, as I found out, because my game turned off like in the middle of it when it went over that 24-hour window. So just a warning to anybody that wants to, spend some Thanksgiving watching some Premiership games, schedule which replays you want to watch. And then, I mean, so plenty to watch, man. I wonder like how the Premier Sevens viewership is going to be affected by being at the same time as a USA and Canada test match. And massive test matches at that.
Because it's like true.
The games, I think the USA kicks off at 3, Canada kicks off at 2.
Yeah.
Which I suppose means that they could kind of be over before like the TSN 4 portion of.
Yeah, because TSN 4 is meant to start at like 4 p.m. So
I suppose it could be over before that happens. But it's also like, I mean, hey, like at the same time too, like Rugby Canada fans have certainly made it known that they're not happy with this Premier Sports thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's anybody that's just going to be like, oh man, we'll just watch Premier Sevens all day because it's, I don't know. Well, I wonder how viewership kind of impacts it when it all kind of ends up being at the same time, especially when it's North American leagues all kind of clashing at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can definitely say we are sport for choice, and just cancel your plans for Saturday because you're going to be watching rugby. Okay, we're going to be wrapping it up there. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more of it, you can follow us on Spotify, Anchor FM, the Rouge Rugby podcast. You can also follow us on our social media channels. We're on Facebook, Instagram, when they're actually working. We're on Twitter as well. Our handle is always at the Rouge Rugby. Derek, what are your social media handles?
Yeah, so you can find me at Brissette the Jet on basically everything across the entire spectrum of the social media landscape, including the platforms that don't shut down for lengthy 12-hour periods of time.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, Derek, thank you for joining me tonight. Again, Derek Brissette, I'm Stu Hardy. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing and listening to you next time.